structures for refugee youth in education in Munich and Toronto, and also what kind of barriers or resources they see. So this is just to give you an idea about my research setting. I'm doing a qualitative research setting, and I've done data collections through qualitative interviews, and my data analysis is a triangulation of 3 different kinds of methods. And 2 of those you might not know so well because they're really common and yeah, in Germany, but I think the qualitative content analysis of Meiring and also Bohnsack is not so known here. But I won't get too deep into this because I also want to have some time to show my results. So my sample, you can see it here. I did interviews with refugee youth and I did interviews with experts, both in Munich and Toronto. And I used my interviews with experts to do the structural analysis and the interviews with the refugee youth to do my individual analysis. And to connect both, I'm doing case studies. And the case studies are basing on that biographical interviews. So now I'm going to give you a few numbers so you can see numbers of refugee claimants and also a bit about the system in Germany and Canada. So I guess a lot of you know about these numbers, and I guess you know that numbers of refugee claimants have been going down considerably in the last years in Canada. As you see here in 2008, still 36,000, and then 2012, 30,000. But you also have in Canada, and this is really a different thing to Germany, you have governmental assisted refugees and you have privately sponsored refugees. In comparison to this, Germany, we have a totally different process going on. Numbers of refugee claimants are rising considerably, and they're still rising now. So you can see from 2008 to 2012, numbers had more than doubled, and they're still going up right now. So this means that even for not such a big city as at Munich, it's only 1.5 million people, there's a huge number of refugee youth in the system now. You can see only in this age group, 16 to 21, there are 2,500. Oh, you can't see it actually, because I was sitting here. Okay, now you can see it. There were 2,500 refugee youth in Munich, and also a big number of unaccompanied youth. And we don't have, as I said, government-assisted refugees, but we are starting now a resettlement program for Syrian refugees. And it should have been 10,000 people in 2013, but until February 2014, only around 3,000 Syrian refugees had arrived in Germany. So now I'm going to tell you a bit about the educational pathways of refugee youth in Munich and Toronto. And for this, I have to explain a bit about the educational system in Germany. If not, it's hard to understand my results. This is just to give you a little bit of an overview how complex the German educational system is. And now I'll level this a bit down so I can give you 2 ideas that are important to know about the German educational system. In Germany, from grade 5th on, students are channeled in 3 different kinds of schools. So there's like the low-level school, which is called Hauptschule. Then you have the intermediate level, which is Realschule. And then you have the higher level, which leads to university and tertiary education, and it's called Gymnasium. But besides this 3 different levels of school for secondary, you also have a huge vocational training system, which is, Germany I think is quite famous for this. And it's also interesting to see that this vocational system is not only for the low-performing students, but also for the intermediate level and the high-performing students. So if if you look at the vocational education in Germany, it's part-time in a school and it's part-time in a company. So this means that there's like, you don't need certain secondary certificate to get into this vocational training. If the company is fine with the lowest level of secondary certificate, then you can still do it. And you graduate as a skilled worker, and there's a broad acceptance of vocational training, and there's a smooth transition into workplace. So what does this mean for refugee youth in Germany? So if you look at this, you can see that are the educational pathways of refugee youth in Munich. So if refugee youth come and they are older than 15, they're directly channeled into vocational, into vocational system. But even if they're under 16, they're usually channeled into the lowest level of secondary education, which also leads to vocational training. And the access to the upper technical schools and tertiary education is really limited. So you can see some mechanisms of inclusion in Munich, because the vocational training is open until age of 25, and it's also open for students with lower level and prior schooling. But you also can see mechanisms of exclusion, because actually education is limited to vocational training. And there is refugees living in refugee camps, and they don't really get information about education. And just like a very short glimpse to Toronto, what's happening here, I think you know that better. So anyway, it's not so bad, but I don't have a lot of time left. Your general education system is serving a lot broader age group than the German one, and the high school is the main institution for all different groups of students. So in terms of mechanism of inclusion, the access to general education is broader, and you have the streaming, which is quite flexible, and there's a broad support system. But also there are mechanisms of exclusion in Toronto. So you can see that refugee claimants are more